experience, right?
So I'm not going.
She's like, yeah, you don't even know the things that since Jen moved. What happened? Yeah. All I know is the last thing I and then it's change was
So I didn't do it because in middle school I don't do so every year there's a direction I follow. So this is like technically like my first
You're on it too.
The regular monthly meeting of November 21st, 2024 was called to order at 7:47 p.m. at Thomas Edison School, 3701 Fairlawn Avenue, room 19, Fairlawn, New Jersey. There were 19 members of the public in attendance. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Baldowski?
Here.
Mr. Banta? Here. Dr. Bertolini?
Present.
Ms. Brown?
present.
Ms. Favelovich?
Present.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Here.
Mr. Spindell?
Present.
Ms. Yerman?
Present.
Mrs. Mahan?
Present.
We have a quorum.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Fairlawn Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof distributed to the persons on the approved list, posted in the Board of Education Administrative Office, and sent to the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger. The announcements posting for the regular monthly meeting, along with the date, place, and time thereof, was distributed on January 5th, 2024. The items discussed during the closed work session of the November 21st regular monthly meeting included personnel matters, student matters, legal matters, negotiations and/or grievances, and tactics and techniques utilized to protect the public safety and property. The results of these discussions will be made public as soon as possible. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we have Miley Zamaku from Memorial Middle School, Yali Gall from TJ Middle School, and Lindsay Samuels, our Fairlawn High School student rep, joining us for our student representatives reports. The floor is yours, guys.
Memorial's annual Veterans Day celebration began with an inspiring all-school assembly where over 650 students and more than 120 staff members warmly welcomed our honored guest with a standing ovation as they entered the auditorium and took their places on stage. It was a heartfelt tribute to those who have served our nation. Following the assembly, our veterans visited classrooms, engaging students in meaningful and educational conversations, sharing stories of service, and answering questions about their experiences. The day was made even more special with a delicious breakfast generously provided by our PTO. Each veteran also received a dinner goodie bag from a family affair made possible through staff donations collected during our October Pumpkin Palooza event. This cherished event continues to be a highlight of the year at Memorial. To all our veterans, thank you again for your service.
On Friday, November 15th, Mr. Grumman facilitated a visit to TJ by local veterans who met with students to share stories about their service, and has become a tradition at TJ. We have set America's white table outside of the auditorium, where it will remain until Thanksgiving to honor the men and women who have served in America's armed forces.
It's official. Several of Memorial's teachers are making a bold statement with their upper lips. Mr. Cohen, Mr. Pizzuta, and Mr. Cofrancesco have joined forces for No Shave November, and the results are, well, growing on us. These brave men are sporting some serious and not so serious facial hair to raise awareness for men's health issues. Whether it's a classic stash or a budding caterpillar or the handlebar growing on Mr. Cohen's face, these teachers are turning heads and starting conversations. So next time you see them, don't be afraid to ask, what's with the hairy lip? It's all for a great cause.
Under the direction of our guidance counselors, Mrs. Fleming and Mrs. Van Westervelt, our 7th and 8th grade Peers for Peace members visited the Stepping Stones classes at Westmoreland today, November 21st, for the first monthly play dates throughout the year. Our thanks to Mrs. Delgado and the teachers at Westmoreland, Miss Gruber, Miss Garbus, Miss Parcellis, and Miss Dubinsky, for their time and care in facilitating these gatherings for our students.
TREPS, short for Entrepreneurs, is a program that teaches students the basics of starting and running their own businesses, and now it's time for them to shine. Need a last-minute holiday gift? Our talented young entrepreneurs are here to help. From handmade bracelets for that special someone, gratitude jars for daily inspiration, to delicious homemade sweet treats, our students have something for everyone. Come support Memorial's budding business owners on December 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Memorial Middle School and find unique, heartfelt gifts. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.
On Wednesday, in honor of World Children's Day, we kicked off our sixth annual Christian Kicks with Love from Lucy and Peter Holiday Drive to support Hackensack Children's Hospital, the Jackson Strong Foundation, the Peter T. Foundation, and the Phil Terramina Scholarship Fund. Over the last 6 years, this has become the most important time of year for our school, a time where we work to honor the memory of students, classmates, and loved ones lost to deliver smiles to those in need. Christian, Lucy, and Peter were givers, always willing to offer a helping hand to others in a time of need. A promise our school community has made is to honor this characteristic. Between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve, students, families, and friends are invited to help us raise funds that will be used to support children receiving cancer treatment.
Last week, Memorial's teachers and staff took school spirit to a whole new level with their first ever Underground Spirit Week. From Alma Mater Monday to Tiara Tuesday, because teachers rule, our teachers kept us guessing what was coming next. Western Wednesday had us all channeling our inner Western selves, though a few students thought the teachers were auditioning for Beyoncé's next tour. Then came Anything But a Cup Thursday, where the creativity hit peak levels. Teachers were sipping coffee out of shoes, disco balls, and yes, Miss Fife even managed to hydrate out of a mini toilet. We don't ask questions, we just applaud. They wrapped up with Festive Friday, where holiday cheer took over. Shout out to the math department for dressing up to celebrate Pi Day. Is it an official holiday? No. Would we take a day off to celebrate it? Absolutely. Thanks to all the teachers for the surprise week and making Underground Spirit Week an unforgettable and slightly confusing event. To all Memorial students, keep your head on a swivel. I know the teachers have more surprises up their sleeve. On behalf of the students and staff at Memorial and TJ, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. We are so very grateful for all you do at Fairlawn Schools.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be back to update you all on Fairlawn High School. For starters, we've just begun our Fall Spirit Week today. We celebrated 100 years of Fairlawn with our birthday-themed photo booth in the decaf. Tomorrow, we'll be having a student-teacher swap day. This theme was very popular last year, and we look forward to seeing the outfits our peers and staff will wear tomorrow. We'll have a red day and gray day on Monday and Tuesday. Finally, we'll close off the week with Fairlawn Apparel Day on Wednesday. We'll also have a pep rally on Wednesday to send our students into Thanksgiving break with school spirit and fun. The Masks Show began performing Sense and Sensibility this Tuesday, November 19th, and will be hosting shows until Sunday, November 24th. Be sure to buy our tickets and support our theater program. To continue, Fairlawn High School is joining forces with the Fairlawn Police Department with their toy drive. Students will bring unwrapped toys to the school for the police to give to children in the area. We're always happy to be helping our community. Overall, our clubs are very active. Our organizations have been going on trips, planning events, and preparing for competition season. Our winter sports are also starting soon. If you'd like to support one of our club's many fundraisers, which I know you all love to do, check out our calendar on the Fairlawn High School website. It's updated regularly with any new events, especially fundraisers. Thank you for your time and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you all. So before we get to the superintendent's comments, I just wanted to make a comment on behalf of the board to those members of our community who put themselves out there in support of our school district and our community and ran for the Fairlawn Board of Education. Please know we are very grateful for the time and effort that you did put in. Official results will be presented and certified at our reorg meeting in January. But thank you so much. Your effort, your engagement, and your support is much appreciated. Dr. Dionisio.
Thank you, Ms. Mahan. Good evening, everyone. I would like to begin this evening by drawing everyone's attention to Resolution 7I on our evening's agenda. It is my distinct pleasure to make the recommendation as your superintendent of schools to recommend Mrs. Claire Keller for the position of Assistant Superintendent of Education. Mrs. Keller emerged as the outstanding candidate from a robust selection process that included 70 applicants and multiple rounds of very comprehensive interviews over the past several months with various stakeholders across our entire district. What set Mrs. Keller apart was her exceptional performance and being able to articulate across critical leadership domains, particularly in the areas of the district's strategic priorities: curriculum development, data-driven decision-making, educational innovation, and collaboration. Her demonstrated expertise in building relationships and responding to community needs aligns with where we are in our district's vision. Ms. Mahan, I would like to ask you and the board to consider making a motion to move 7I to the beginning of the agenda this evening so we can have a vote on Mrs. Keller's appointment at this time.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposition? Can I get a motion for 7I?
So moved.
Second.
Jean Brown.
When you're ready, roll call, please.
Mr. Baldowski,
Yes.
Mr. Banta,
Yes.
Dr. Bertolini,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Fabelevich,
No.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Spindell,
Yes, with pleasure.
Ms. Yorman,
Yes.
Mrs. Mahan.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Before I have Dr. Dionisio continue, I do understand that some of our student representatives may have tests and quizzes or just shows to binge watch so that you guys also get a wellness break. As well as Ms. Keller, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your family for being here. What an honor it is to see your children see what a model you are for our community and our students as well. So if there's anybody who would like to excuse themselves prior to the rest of our meeting, please do so now before we continue.
Mrs. Mahan, I'm going
And
to ask.
if anyone planning to leave, happy Thanksgiving.
And Mrs. Keller, I was going to ask if you would please come to the podium and say a few words.
Good evening. I am so incredibly humbled and excited to be here. Thank you to be joining this Fair Lawn community. Thank you to Dr. Dionisio for this whole process and the members of the committee that were part of, interviewing and letting me know Fair Lawn's goals and needs. I'm excited. I know the members of the board, and your goal is the students of the district, and that is your number one concern, and that is now my number one concern. So I look forward to January and starting. Congratulations, Dr. Lacatina. I wish you all the best. I look forward to working with you, and thank you to my family for all their support and love and for being here. So thank you.
Nice job. They did a nice job.
Ms. Keller, would you like me to take a picture of you and your family?
Yes.
And how about would you like to introduce your family?
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah, where's the Fair Lawn? Do you have like a Fair Lawn? Number two?
I really can't read lips at all. I really can't. It's really bad at school. Sometimes the kids.
Just not in this scenario.
Okay. I'll continue. Good.
Dr. Dionisio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Mahan. So I have two more updates this evening. First, I would also like to recognize this evening and acknowledge Mrs. Joan Cosgrove, who will be retiring from her position as Secretary of Student Services at Edison School, effective June 30th, 2025. Mrs. Cosgrove has served our Fair Lawn School community with distinction for 28 years, demonstrating unwavering dedication to our students, to our families, and to our staff. We extend our deepest appreciation for her contributions and wish her well in retirement. Lastly, before this evening's presentation, I'd like to take a moment to frame tonight's presentation on our Gifted and Talented program and the regulations associated with our program design. Our district has thoughtfully examined gifted and talented identification process over the course of many, many years. It's a testament to the reflection and evolution of programming to serve the needs of our students, specifically the work of our district administration, our gifted and talented teachers, our support staff, and our Board of Education, who have all spent considerable time reviewing the program and the practices that we use regarding the use of school-based norms and all of our other practices. The approach we use aligns with the National Association of Gifted Children and the research-based recommendations and in accordance with New Jersey Strengthening Gifted and Talented Education Act. Our current identification model recognizes that gifted learners emerge from all backgrounds and circumstances. By using school-based norms, we can better identify students who demonstrate exceptional potential within their immediate peer group in their school community, while ensuring we don't overlook talented students due to variations in early learning opportunities. Tonight, Dr. Lacatina and Mrs. D we'll be sharing updates from our Gifted and Talented Committee's comprehensive review process, incorporating recent feedback from our Education Committee meeting on November 14th. Their presentation will demonstrate our ongoing commitment to both excellence and equity in student identification while ensuring transparent and uniform procedures district-wide. I will now turn the presentation over to Dr. Lakatina and to Mrs. D.
Thank you, Dr. Dionisio, and good evening, everyone. As Dr. Dionisio said, can we get rid, I'm sorry, Rui? How do we get rid of that? Can you just
click up.
yeah, just touch the board, sorry. There we go, thank you. All right. They tried, and I don't think they were able to get it, yeah. Yeah. As Dr. Dionisio said, tonight what we are going to do is walk you through our journey of gifted and talented revisions from 2018 until the present so that you can see how this program has evolved over the years. You know, let's move this. Yeah, thank you. All right. Before we present the history of changes to Fair Lawn's G&T program over the course of the past 8 years, we would first like to establish some common language and explain the framework for the work that was done in order to better understand why our current program looks the way it does. So let's begin with a definition of giftedness. Fair Lawn's Gifted program is guided by the National Association of Gifted Children's definition of giftedness. Students with gifts and talents perform or have the capability to perform at higher levels compared to others of the same age, experience, and environment in one or more domains. This definition is consistent with the New Jersey Department of Education's definition that's put forth in the New Jersey Administrative Code Strengthening Gifted and Talented Education Act. Gifted and talented means a student who possesses or demonstrates a high level of ability in one or more content areas when compared to his chronological peers in the school district and who requires modifications of his educational program if he is to achieve in accordance with his capability. Both of these definitions stress the importance of comparing our students to their local peers rather than peers in other districts, across the state, or across the nation. The NAGC stresses the comparison of students within the same environment, while the Strengthening Gifted Act speaks in terms of peers in the school district. Because Fair Lawn students receive gifted services within their own building, our students' performance is compared to their school-based peers. These peers are indeed sharing the same environment, and they are obviously in the same school district. Thus, this practice of using school-based percentiles enables us to provide tiered services to like-minded peers within the same school. Additionally, research tells us that in demographically diverse school systems, it is best practice to use school-based percentiles for purposes of identification because it provides more equity in the identification process. We will review this a little bit later in the presentation. Now let's talk about the structure of our gifted and talented program and services. Using a tiered approach in the elementary school, a combined framework of tiered services and accelerated courses in the middle schools, and a diverse offering of honors, advanced placement, and dual enrollment opportunities at the high school level, Fair Lawn students are able to stimulate their academic growth in their areas of strength. And this is a really important piece right here. The goal of our gifted and talented programs is not to label a student, but rather to recognize and respond to their ever-changing educational needs. In other words, our goal is to make sure that we provide students with the services they need at the time that they need it. Our programs are not about labeling students. It's about matching student needs to programs and services. We know that students' needs change over time, so it's important that we recognize that and make sure that at any given moment of time, students are receiving what they need to continue to learn and grow. We will continue to talk about this concept as we go throughout the rest of the presentation. As we mentioned in the previous slide, we use a tiered program model for our gifted and services. So what does this mean? You see a graphic here on this slide, and I'm going to use this to try to help explain what a tiered model looks like. So on the left side of the graphic, there are 3 tiers which depict a continuum of services for students that may be struggling in an academic area. This is often referred to as RTI, response to intervention. Tier 1 services include supports that are given to all students, such as differentiation in the classroom to meet individual student learning needs. Tier 2 services on the left-hand side for struggling learners can include targeted instruction for smaller groups of students in order to support them in the specific areas that are giving them some difficulties. This could be a basic skills class. And then when Tier 1 and Tier 2 services still don't provide that learner with enough support, those students can receive Tier 3 services. Those services are provided to students in even smaller groups, maybe even on a one-to-one basis. If you turn that model and you create a mirror image, on the right-hand side, now you see a continuum of services, but this time it's for gifted students. So like the intervention side of the graphic, students in need of gifted services may receive differentiation in the classroom, Tier 1. They might get small group instruction focused on specific needs, Tier 2. Or they may receive instructional supports in an even smaller setting, which is Tier 3, in order to address their needs. This is referred to as response to intelligence. This tiered model that you're looking at supports our children, helps them learn across the continuum. It's not just a model for struggling learners, it's also a model for gifted students as well, so that they can excel in their learning. So what else guides our program, and why have we made the decisions that we've made in our most recent iteration of our gifted and talented programming? We had an audit in the 2022-2023 school year, and we got several commendations as well as recommendations about our programming, and we use this information as well to help guide our decisions. So I took some screenshots directly from our audit, and I'm going to share that with you now. Differentiated program. One of the comments that we got was Fair Lawn uses a 4-tiered gifted MTSS model. This was back in 2022. This is a best practice in the field, and other school districts do not frequently follow this model. Fair Lawn's model and MTSS structure is exemplary. It was also commented that the high school programming in Fair Lawn is exemplary. The students, including those with giftedness, have access to dual enrollment, advanced placement courses, and a plethora of elective and extracurricular opportunities available to them. Fair Lawn universally screens its students. The teachers differentiate in the regular classrooms, and the gifted and talented teachers collaborate well within the district. The gifted MTSS, which we just talked about as RTI as well, follows best practices and provides a structure within which to modify services as needed. Some additional comments. The district is transparent about their identification plan on the district website. Fair Lawn School District universally screens all students using data and allows multiple entry points to services. Fair Lawn School District uses local norms and building norms when identifying students for gifted and talented services, which is a known best practice in gifted education. Best practice in gifted education requires school districts to review placement and services for students each year, including students already identified as gifted. I suggest a district-wide screening one time in 2nd or 3rd grade and then ongoing review of students receiving services each year thereafter, as well as reconsideration of any student with data in the gifted range. The auditor says, I strongly advise removing or revising the district's outside testing policy. Privately issued IQ tests are nationally normed, not locally normed. Additionally, there are equity concerns with accepting privately acquired IQ tests from psychologists hired by families. So again, as we go through this presentation, you are going to see where we took these accolades and these recommendations and put them into practice.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to take you back in time to 2018-19. In this school year, we met with the Education Committee as a whole on October 4th, 2018. And there we discussed our current REACH program offerings. At that time, our program was called REACH. These are the programs that were offered from grades K through 5. As you can see, it wasn't a truly tiered model at that time. Also at this time, the board was supporting our attendance at national and local conferences because we knew that there was a lot that we wanted to build and improve upon with our current offerings. You will notice with these offerings, the pullout was only in 4th and 5th grade for identified students for math and literacy, and those were in what we called rotations at the time, some of them being approximately 10 sessions of that math or literacy rotation. At that time, we were using our REACH teachers to work with our teachers to differentiate our classroom teachers. We were also giving all students in grades 3, 4, and 5 those push-in whole class enrichment opportunities, and we offered a lot of self-select programs to those upper grade students. At that time, this was the criteria we were using for identification. We were using the cognitive abilities test. It was a screener, and we were using the district percentiles that we received back. This was just a screener. It was not the full battery that we've more recently adopted. We were using the comprehensive testing program, the CTP5. Again, district percentiles were used. And we were using the PARC, which is now known as NJSLA, but at the time we were using the PARC assessments. We were also using our classroom and district assessments to identify our students. Then in the spring, we met again and held an education committee meeting and a parent information session to let everyone know the changes that we were putting into place that following school year. And here is just a timeline of the events that occurred throughout the 2018-19 school year. We had sent a survey to all of the Bergen County districts and asked for feedback on the programs they were using, the identification measures they were utilizing. And at that time, we also asked our colleagues in Bergen County if anyone was doing anything exemplary that they would love to host us to share their program. So we were able to visit with Allendale. Everyone that we surveyed and all of the feedback that we got, all Bergen County schools were asking, can we have some of that information too? So we knew we were on the right track with what we were doing, and we were sharing all of that information. We were meeting with the REACH teachers who were attending the Rutgers Gifted Conference. Natalie and I attended the National Gifted Conference, and we were sort of in this frenzy of taking on all this information and sort of sharing all these wonderful ideas to kind of talk about the vision and the direction we were going to take this program. We also prepared grade 2 for the COGAT, and we started hiring an additional REACH position, which the board supported, so that was wonderful. We did administer grade 2, the COGAT that year, and we completed behavioral checklists, which we gave our teachers the information on how to rate students on those behavioral checklists and gave them the professional development on gifted students. Which takes us to the 1920 school year. Natalie's going to take you through that school year and how our work was sort of impacted by the pandemic.
So on October 30th, 2019, again, we held 2 parent information sessions to let the community know about the changes that were being made for the 1920 school year. Here is a screenshot from that presentation, which shows the enrichment model that we were using at the time in grades kindergarten through 5. And you can see that everything highlighted in yellow were new pieces of programming that were added to our model. These were primarily offering trimester push-in and pull-out programs for students in grades K through 2, a self-select study option for students in grades 3, as well as pull-out literacy and math programs for students in grade 3. In the 1920 school year, we continued to use the COGAT screener, the CTP-5, and behavioral scales, and we replaced PARCC scores with the brand new NJSLA. So those were the multi-measures used for identification during the 1920 school year. At that time, we were using an eligibility matrix where we took all of that data and we put it on a matrix, and that was used to match student need with programming. So that is how the eligibility was being used at that time, and we will show you later in the presentation how eligibility is determined presently. So take all that information. These are really the highlights of what happened in 2019 and 2020. This was the first year that we implemented a tiered service model in grades K through 5. We implemented revised grades K through 5 behavioral scales to help us identify gifted characteristics within our students. We focused on professional development for our general education teachers so that they were more capable of assisting and supporting gifted students in their classrooms. We strengthened our parent communication, we updated our brochure, we improved our G&T website, we created student performance reports so students knew, so parents knew how their children were performing in the G&T offerings. And as Mrs. D said, we were very fortunate. We were able to hire an additional 0.5 REACH teacher, so we went from 3 to 3.5 REACH teachers, or what we now call gifted and talented teachers. And then the pandemic hit. So we had all these great plans for 2019, 2020, and then schools closed. Well, we were able to implement the first 2 trimesters of programming quite well, but now we were working remotely, educating our students via technology, and so we had to rethink what the programs looked like for the 3rd trimester offerings. So we did what we normally do, and we pivoted, and we put different procedures and processes into place so that we can continue as best as possible with our intended programs. So these are the highlights of what happened from March through June of that school year. We implemented choice boards for all students in grades K through 2. So instead of the PETS program, which was very challenging to try to implement remotely, we gave all students choices and opportunities for them to participate in enriched activities. We were unable to do our grade 3 independence study, but we did continue with our grade 3 and 4 math seminars. We did that via Google Classroom. We also did our grade 5 Word Masters via Google Classroom, and we were able to continue the grade 5 STEM program via online activities and resources. And then that brought us to the 2020-2021 school year. So in January of 2021, we had an education committee meeting. And at that meeting, the following topics were discussed. We reviewed the Strengthening Gifted Education Act and what that required. We reviewed the programs and offerings in grades K through 12, including all of our REACH opportunities, our enriched honors AP courses, and all of those clubs and activities in the middle and high school. We discussed the challenges we were having as a result of the pandemic, and we also had quite a lengthy discussion about the use of local or school-based rather than district-based norms. So these are some of the slides that we shared with our Board of Education about the use of local norms. Scholars have always highlighted inequities and gaps in education. And this happens in the area of gifted education as well. And so scholars have provided us with ways that we can address these inequities. So using universal screenings and local norms, particularly school-based, are wonderful ways for us to try to address the inequities. As you can see, under local norms, gifted students don't have to be in a high-performing school. They need to be high-performing in their school. Local norm comparisons are also consistent with the definition of giftedness first advanced in the U.S. Department of Education's National Excellence Report, which also recommended identifying student abilities in comparison with others of their age, experience, and environment. Today, many schools draw students from local neighborhood attendance zones that commonly are segregated by income, race, and ethnicity. That's why local norms, school-based norms, work. So again, by identifying talent in every building within a district, gifted populations can get closer to mirroring the larger student population. Another highlight from this research from Peters et al. From 2019 is that results from their research in tandem with previous findings suggest that transitioning from national or state reference norms to local building norms for gifted identification would substantially reduce group differences in rates of gifted identification. This was cutting-edge research in 2019. We were very fortunate that we were able to put these practices into place in the 2020-2021 school year. This slide, as well as the next one, just provide additional research that has been conducted on the use of local school norms, and we had shared this with the Board of Education. And again, information from the National Association of Gifted Children website, which also endorses the use of school-based percentiles. In the school year 2020-2021, unfortunately, we were still without many scores because we did not have new NJSLA scores. We were not able to, we didn't have all of our students in school to give them CTP 5s. So we had to pivot once again with our identification for the 2020-21 school year. And we were using the COGAT screener, the classroom assessments. We created a PETS assessment to assess our K-2 students in the area of critical thinking, and we continued to use the behavioral scales as this was information we can get from our teachers. So the revision highlights for 2020-2021 implementation. We implemented a grade 6 literacy seminar. We implemented temporary changes of identification and self-select tier 3 for grades K through 2 because of the COVID pandemic. So these were temporary implementations until we could get all of the data that we needed to be able to properly implement our programs. Kelly will now take you through 2021 and 2022 school year. That's still me?
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, you're right. Sorry, tried to get out of that word. We're getting there, getting closer and closer. I'll take the clicker, please. Oh, sorry. That's okay. There was an education committee meeting, October 11th, 2021. And in this meeting, the following topics were reviewed and discussed. We talked about the implementation of that REACH literacy seminar into the grade 6 the prior school year. And the reason for that is because in grade 6, that's when students are in those accelerated or those enriched math courses, which takes the place of that gifted and talented offering. So the REACH seminar for literacy kind of filled that there. And then here we reviewed the curriculum calendar. We were doing everything in sort of trimesters. So as you can see throughout the school year, the teachers had an opportunity to push into all of the K-1-2 classrooms for the PETS program and push in for 3 for STEM. And we were offering these seminars also on that rotating trimester in the 21-22 school year. These are sample eligibility rubrics that were posted directly on our website. At that time in 21-22, there was a combination of percentiles and raw scores for K-2 and 3-6 programming. There were clear cutoffs. You had to have 24, you had to have this many points out of 24 or higher. You had to be in the 95th percentile or higher. And so those were all outlined on the website. And the measures that were used for identification was the COGAT screener, the school-based percentiles, classroom assessments, behavioral scales, and that PETS assessment that Dr. Lacatina talked about. So at that time in 21-22, we were using school-based percentiles. And that was basically the revision highlight for 21-22 school year. that we were using those local school-based percentiles from the COGAT. So that takes us to the 22-23 school year. And here is when the Strengthening Gifted and Talented Education Act takes effect in New Jersey, and the district initiated a request for consultants, and Meredith Thomas was retained as our consultant, and she began her audit in February of 2023. In the winter, we assembled an ad hoc committee based on interest from Fair Lawn educators and administrators. We had 2 Board of Ed representatives, and we selected 7 parent representatives based on interest in our gifted programming. We began that audit process with Dr. Thomas, which was comprised of a review of our curriculum guides, our board documents, our policy and regs. She attended various department meetings with special services, administrators. She met with teachers from all of our buildings. She met with our gifted and talented teachers. And we had those ad hoc committee meetings to really get an idea of the parent-teacher perceptions of our current program and what they envisioned moving forward with our gifted and talented program. Here is a snapshot of something that was found on our website at the time in grade 6, the literature seminar. We gave the actual cutoff scores and things for identification. And as you can see next to COGAT standard age score, there's that asterisk. And this was just our way of letting anyone that visited our site know that we were using school percentiles for the purpose of identification for the REACH program. The narrative report that got sent home to parents only included national and district level percentiles. There was no option for us working with the Riverside data publisher to incorporate those local percentiles. So we always made sure that we were communicating that with our families. When the profile reports went home, parents had a letter attached explaining that on the enclosed report, they would see national and district percentiles, but to be aware that our district uses school percentiles for the purpose of identification for the REACH program. Parents could always, the next line informs parents, they can always reach out to the enrichment specialist. Many parents did, and our enrichment specialist would have a conversation about individual student results and how they compared to their local peers. The revision highlight for the 22-23 school year was that the program remained the same, but the focus was really at that time on conducting the audit and making sure that Dr. Thomas had everything she needed.
In the 2023-2024 school year, we had yet another Board of Education meeting on September 7th, 2023. And this meeting really focused on the results and the recommendations of the audit. So the primary recommendations given to us by our auditor really centered around the identification process, the continuum of services, setting and establishing a clear vision and mission for our program, along with professional development and improved communication with our parent community. And again, we took these recommendations and put them into place. Our auditor also provided us with information about best practices surrounding identification, and we used this information again when we built our program. So all of this information you will see embedded within our current practices that we use. And again, local cohorts, not national rankings, universal screening, eligibility every year, using measures that are free from bias, et cetera. In December 8th, 2023, we held a Gifted and Talented meeting, and that is where we actually created and developed the vision and mission statement. We did that again with administrators, teachers, Board of Education representatives, and parents. And we had done a presentation on this to the Board of Education and the public afterwards. We also reviewed our Atlas program. This is where we house all of our district curriculum. Our G&T teachers during the 23-24 school year started uploading all of the information about our Gifted and Talented program offerings onto the Atlas program. So the revision highlights for this year, really no changes, as this was our building year. This was the year 1 year from September to June, where we said that we were going to get all of this work done in order to implement it in the 24-25 school year. Huge undertaking. And Kelly gets to bring it home and explain how we did indeed meet this challenge.
We'll share this year. How's that? All right. Okay. So we're here. We're at the 24-25 school year. We spoke with the Board of Education. This was at the State of the Schools presentation where we gave a very quick update on how everything was going and the changes that were about to come for the 24-25 school year. And then in September, we had the opportunity to hold 2 parent sessions, one in the evening on September 11th and one in the morning on September 12th. And it was just very well attended and a great way for us to interact with our parent community and hear their questions and concerns and review the changes to the program and really just share our overall excitement for what was to come with the changes to our program. So this slide was taken from one of Dr. Thomas's presentation. This is that tiered approach where you see the bottom whole class push-in enrichment meeting 100% of our students. That's really our talent development. That's our push-in by our gifted and talented teachers to enrich all of our students. And it's also where our differentiated instruction and our rigorous curriculum are in that 100% tier 1 for all students. Tier 2 is where our academic enrichment comes for students that are showing achievement in areas such as, for us, math and literacy. And Tier 3 is really for that small percentage of students that are requiring more. It's a little clearer on this slide. Tier 1 services, we took everything that we were currently doing and put it on this 3 levels of services. As I said, our PETS program, primary education thinking skills in grades K through 2, we push in and do these awesome lessons. It's on a rotation now where the teachers are getting in classrooms about once a month for that push in and seeing the students kind of develop throughout the course of a year, where in the past it was just for a trimester. So they get to see all kindergarten, all first, all second graders sort of grow throughout the year and share strategies with the teacher and work with the teachers. And that's the same model for STEM in grades 3 through 4. They're in the classrooms about once a month, providing a hands-on lesson, talking with the teachers, observing the students together. In Tier 2, here are where we are providing those pull-aside activities by the classroom teacher that are really created with the gifted and talented teacher. If the teachers see a need and they need some more resources, they're collaborating on those, and the students are given those pull-aside activities right in the classroom. And also our literacy and math seminars, which have now changed to a year-long opportunity for our students. That is one thing we heard time and time again, that it just wasn't enough in a rotation or in a trimester, and these students deserve to work with our gifted and talented teacher throughout the entire year. So we're very excited that they will be identified and then begin the programming in October and stay with that teacher for the entire year for either a literacy seminar or a math seminar if they're showing high achievement in those content areas. And then Tier 3, which probably is where we see the majority of our change, is that we are pulling out students that are meeting the criteria for this very specific learning opportunity. These are students that may not show huge academic achievement in math or literacy, or they might, but they also are around the 96th percentile of their peers and really showing gifted and talented characteristics and in need of something a little bit more. So this program will allow students to meet with the gifted and talented teacher and like-minded peers in grades 3 and 4 and work on a year-long project geared towards their interests, their passions, their strengths. We're really excited that we are going to be partnering with community members and experts out in the real world to give these students sort of the vision that they want for their lives in the future. I guess I can share now about this GT3. We're calling it GT3, but these students were told, I'm not sharing anything that they don't already know, they were told that this year's theme is a golf and arcade theme. And on Friday, about 100 of our students in grades 3 through 6 boarded Fairlawn buses and took a trip to Monster Golf together. So they were with peers from all across the district, and they got sort of a behind-the-scenes look at Monster Golf. And they had the experts there teaching them what it looks like to build a course. And they came off that bus so excited. Their eyes were wide open, and they are just so eager to roll up their sleeves with their peers and create this awesome event for the community, actually, at the end of the year. There'll be more to come on that. But they can choose anything. So maybe their interest is in actually building the course. Maybe their interest is in researching types of clubs. Maybe their interest is in marketing for our event. Maybe their interest is in building a theme, or maybe their interest is in the money side of this. So they will be able to explore whatever it is that interests them with their peers and with the GNT teacher for the whole year. And we're just thrilled that we gave them that opportunity on Friday to all get together and see one another. Over to you.
So again, just some information that we took directly from our parent presentation, some important things for everybody to realize about the identification process, that we are looking for scores that are at or above the gifted range as compared to their local peers. No single measure is going to keep a student out of the program or automatically have a student receive services. We are implementing for the first time a parent referral form, which again is not going to hurt or hinder a student. It doesn't keep a student out of the program if a parent does not complete it, but it gives us really valuable information about the child that will help us make programming decisions for that student moving forward. We again will not be using outside testing for the reasons that we just discussed earlier, issues of equity, and that when we have students new to the district, we will have to wait one full school year so that we can get locally normed measures to use for that student for identification for the following school year. This is a photo of a sample profile data sheet. So we are using this very holistic view of students where we take the criteria you see on the right. Those are the assessments and the data points that we use for this year. We place all that information on this profile data sheet, and it gives the raw score and it gives the percentile. So the further to the right that bar, thank you, that bar goes, and the darker the green, the higher the score. So we have an identification committee that received one full day of training. There's about 12 to 15 of us. They are volunteers from across administration and teachers, educational specialists, and they work with us for a full, this year it was actually a day and a half, to do the identification process. And we use these profile data sheets where we look at the student data in order to determine and match the needs of students with the programs being offered. These profile data sheets are anonymized. We don't know what school the student is in. We don't know who the student is. So in this way, there's no bias. It is really, we're doing it blind without any of that information. So each year we will reevaluate students, whether they are receiving gifted services or not. There will be an opportunity for review annually. So again, here are the multi-measures that we're using for identification for the current school year. School-based percentiles for COGAT complete. It's a complete assessment, which gives us more data points, more comprehensive data points. We use school-based percentiles for NJSLA, school-based percentiles for Linkit benchmark assessments, school-based percentiles for the Torrance test of creative thinking. We use behavioral scales. There's alternative test data available when it's appropriate, and we have the parent referral form. Lots of revision highlights for this school year because this is all based on the audit. We established a gifted and talented vision and mission. We updated our gifted and talented handbook. We have an anonymized process. that's conducted by a multidisciplinary team of trained educators. We transitioned from the COGAT screener to the COGAT complete. Even though we're continuing to use local school-based percentiles, we've now gone to the COGAT complete. We have added the Torrance test of creative thinking. We've added the Linkit benchmarks. We have extended our Tier 2 and Tier 3 services from a trimester-based program to a year-long program. And of course, the largest revisions to our Tier 3 services, opportunities for our students to collaborate with like-minded peers, in which students are empowered to pursue a focus based on their own individual interests and strengths. These programs are also designed to meet the affective and executive functioning needs of our gifted students, and there is a community outreach piece as well. So in summary, you can see that this has been an extremely long journey, 8 years, for us to get to this point. It involved a great deal of professional development, an independent audit of our gifted and talented programs, along with several recommendations for improvement, and then a subsequent Herculean effort by our gifted and talented teachers to get all of this information and changes and revisions implemented in one school year. I can't thank Mrs. D enough and our gifted and talented teachers enough for the unbelievable number of hours and effort and passion that they put into this program. They believe in it with their heart and souls. They love the work they do. I hope that that's evident from what we've presented to you here tonight. And we are extremely proud of this body of work. So if anybody out in the public or here wants the abridged version and does not want to read through all of that, please refer here to slides 58 and 59. And those are very quickly how the program offerings changed from year to year. On slides 60 and 61, you can see how the identification process changed from year to year. So the abridged version might be the way to go. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lakatina, and thank you, Mrs. D. So what I will do now is allow members of the board to ask questions regarding the presentation only. Mr. Rosenberg.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Both of you. Thank you. And please thank everybody that was involved on the committee. This is what I want to say. I remember going back to 2018. I remember sitting at the school board's workshop with you, Dr. Lakatina, in a gifted and talented presentation there, and us talking about changing. And I think that was 2018, right?
Probably around then.
Yeah. Over the years, a bunch of the times I was on the small education committee or chair of education, and got to see this expand.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the expansion. Unfortunately, and this is my fault, I wasn't at Dr. Thomas's presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And picked up bits and pieces of it, but didn't get the whole presentation. This has definitely filled in what I needed to see. And I am very impressed. And I personally, I'm glad, thank you for doing the presentation.
Sure.
Because, I know that last month it wasn't good the way it ended. It ended in a split vote. And I hope now that I see this, I know that I definitely can support it. And looking forward to hearing the kids' responses and seeing the monster golf thing. I'm looking forward to going in June. June, is it going to be, Mrs. D?
Yeah, we're hoping June, yes.
So I look forward to hopefully you'll invite board members to come see it.
Thank you. And part of the purpose for this is, again, it's been an 8-year-long journey with so many meetings, so many presentations to the board and the public, COVID in between, that it was just important to really show all the work and effort that's gone into it and how the program has evolved and why. So I appreciate your patience for the long presentation, but we just felt that it was important to really see the progression so that everybody could truly understand how we got to this point today. So thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Sevelovich.
So do I ask a question and wait, or do I ask all my questions at the same and then and get the answers? How are we doing this? Because every time it's different.
So please ask all your questions, and I am just going to note for everyone moving forward, just so everyone's aware, and I will repeat this for public comment as well as board, but comments on resolutions moving forward when speaking, obviously for the public, please state your name and municipality of residence, specify what your resolution you're talking about. This one is specific, obviously, to our G&T presentation. But our law prohibits board members and administrators from discussing personnel, student discipline, or other confidential. But I want to really point out right now, and you'll hear that this sounds a little bit different than it has in the past. This is not a dialogue or a Q&A session between speakers and the board. While we may not respond immediately to every comment made tonight or every question, please know that all input is carefully considered, and it will help inform the decisions made by the administration. Responses may come through emails, reports, board statements, website updates, and after the comment period closes. So we really appreciate all that commentary, all of the questions, but please know that tonight and moving forward, just because of information that our administration or our board may or may not have, as well as for the sensitivity of people's time, we want to make sure that you all understand that not all comments or questions will be responded to here and now.
So that's for the board as well?
That's correct.
So we vote on something and we will not be able to know the answers until later. That's what you're saying. I just want to make sure that I understand.
So what I'm saying is that this is not a dialogue.
But all our questions are answered as board members since we're voting members.
So this is not a dialogue. That is what I have to offer. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. On the one of the slides where you had the little snippets with Miss Meredith from the presentation, it says local and building norms are used, and she praised that. Did we use local and building norms, and then we change it just to building norms? That's one question. That was where the little snippets, if that makes sense, where I got that.
I know, right, from the audit.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So my question is, if she praised using local and building norms, I assume local means district-wise because we're a local district, and building meaning the actual building. So she praised us for using both, as much as I understood. Maybe I misunderstood, so I'm asking that question. My second question is, the audit was made for K through 6, 7 through 12, as I recollect, maybe I'm forgot. She really didn't look at it. That was her main objective, was K through 6. So I wanted to double check if that was correct. My other question, next question is the profile data sheet. It was told to me that it is confidential and it's district and parents are not allowed to receive that information. Then I looked up what does student records mean. And a student records based on FERPA, and I could be wrong, maybe the attorney can explain something that I'm wrong, directly related to the student. So it would say my name, Rita Fivelovich, on your profile sheet, and it would maintain it's maintained by educational agency, which is the school district. So my question is, why is the profile data sheet not provided to the parents? So if it's an educational record. My next question is, last board meeting, during our write-ups, I asked the question, does this, using local norms, building norms, does that mean that students, hypothetically, in school A in the district may be denied services while the same student in school B in the district would be given service? They answer, it could, since the students are identified based on local school data. So my question is, how is that equitable? My other question is,
You have 30 seconds remaining.
the COGET, the tolerance test, or the other test, do parents sign permission to take this test, or everybody takes this test? How do children are choose to take all these tests? Like the COGET, the tolerance, and whatever test other ones that parents are required to take. Thank you.
Okay, so I wrote them all down and hopefully I've got them all. So the use of local and building norms, yes, we were praised because at that point in time, we were using local district norms for some of our assessments because we did not have the ability to create school-based norms. However, in conversation with Dr. Thomas, based on best practice, and because we are a very demographically diverse community, best practice is to use local, meaning school-based norms. So there is nothing wrong with using district norms. There's nothing wrong with using school-based norms. The best practice is for us to use school-based norms and percentiles. And when we were able to convert those assessments to local school-based percentiles, we started to use them. Indeed, Dr. Thomas was not specifically looking at 7 through 12. She really was looking at the REACH program at that point in time in K through 6. She happened to make a comment on our high school offerings. So I thought that I would put that in there because it's just a really nice accolade for our staff and our students and our community to know that. Profile data sheets. Those profile data sheets are an internal document that we create for identification purposes so that our identification team can see all the data in one place. Parents receive the results of the COGAT. They get a much more detailed report than what's sitting on that profile sheet. And same thing for the other standardized assessments. So those are not new scores to parents. Those are scores parents have received. And again, parents were told at our meeting, they're encouraged all the time, please come and review that sheet. You are welcome to see the results. They are your students' results. So we have no problem sharing the information. We just don't hand that internal document that we have created. We don't give that to the parents, but we certainly share that information. As far as school-based programs, across all schools, we use the 96th percentile for identification for Tier 3, 92nd percentile for identification for Tier 2. That is the same standard we use across every single school. And there was something about the COGAT and Torrance, that last part, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Do parents have to give permission for their kids to take it, or have
Thank
their
you very much.
choosing-
We inform parents about that. It's a universal screener, which is best practice. So we should not be saying, you know, this student is going to take it, that student's not. We don't get the choice of who gets to take it and doesn't. It is offered to all students, and parents are informed about that. If for some reason they didn't want their child to be part of it, they can inform us and let us know. Thank you for those questions.
Dr. Lakatina, thank you for those responses. I'm actually going to ask also Mr. Comegno to respond to the question around the school, the student profile reports, if you could.
Thank you both for the presentation. And as usual, the procedures laid out not only reflect best practice, but they're consistent with federal law and regulation. Great question about FERPA and its application here. USED Student Privacy Policy Office has actually directly addressed this issue of accessing education records, noting that under FERPA, schools, quote, must provide a parent with an opportunity to inspect and review education records within a reasonable period of time. But schools, goes on further, generally not required to provide copies of education records, which is exactly the process that we've heard tonight. We also, this was addressed previously this evening. So the point is there is access to education records which include personally identifiable information, which is what you noted. This certainly is personally identifiable information. Parents have the ability here to come in and review it and see it and ask questions about it and consider it and talk about it. But copies are not made. Again, as directed here, there are other circumstances involving testing protocols in the special education process or other standardized testing data that for various reasons parents have an absolute access to look at, learn about, ask questions about, but copies aren't made for various reasons. So our practice, again, like with other things we hear you talk about, it's consistent.
Dr. Bertolini.
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate and thank once again Dr. Lacatina and Mrs. D for a thorough and understandable presentation. I do have a question. I know it's going to end up going backwards on the slides, but there was a slide that talked about the parent referral form. Do you know where that? Can you go back to that?
Of course I can.
I know it's probably like 5 slides back.
Point of information, I thought we are only allowed to ask questions and then everything will be responded. That's what you told.
That's actually not what I said. You're welcome to review the YouTube video after we are finished. You asked, and I suggested. There was no formal statement given.
Did I do something wrong? Did you find it?
Is this what you're talking about? This
No,
word?
no, it's, I don't know, it's where it's parent referral form.
Well, it says
Oh,
parent.
here's my question.
Go ahead.
Here's my question.
Okay.
For parents that are educated and well born in this country and know what they're talking about, they know that they could hand this form in. What are we doing for the students that have parents that don't know the language, aren't involved in the United States educational system? I don't want it to be an unequitable situation where a parent that knows the system can, because you said it got a lot of information in there about the child from the parent. And I want to know what we're doing for the parents that don't understand the language, are not understanding the system that their kids belong in. Do we go reach out to them to try to get something from them? Is my question.
So we do provide the information. I'm just going to double check with Mrs. D here in the schools, right?
Which you can translate. Yeah, do you want to? So each of the building principals communicated the deadline for the parent referral form, and all of our communication through Aptigee, you can translate. Our school newsletters can be translated. So we are hoping that our parents are reading at least our information in their language, their preferred language. And then since it's a Google form, they could translate and use the Google form that way. That is our hope. So if there are additional ways that we can explore to reach a greater.
Whatever we can to try to get everyone involved in the process.
But again, a referral a lack of a referral did not exclude us from looking at every single profile
But it
sheet.
did catch my attention when one of you said that it gives them, the committee, a valuable information on the child. So the parent that doesn't fill out the form, there isn't that valuable information.
So it's always interesting to see that. I'll give you an example. So a student is identified as being in need of a Tier 3 service, and that parent in the referral said, my child is so curious about science, loves astronomy and looking at the stars and blah, blah, blah. The gifted and talented teacher then might use that information and say, hey, if you're designing one of the holes for this golf course, why don't we do a space theme? Because now they know that that child really likes space. So there's a place where it can be helpful. It didn't cause us to say, wow, that's the reason to put the child, give this child those services, but it might guide that teacher later on.
Okay, once the student's in.
Correct.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's an example.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Yerman.
Thank you for this wonderful, extensive presentation. It's opened up a whole new world. Congratulations to Dr. Lacatina, Ms. D, all the any administrators, parents, teachers, specialists, anybody that was involved in this project. It's long, it's extensive. But I do have a question, one question and one statement. So the one question goes back to one of the first slides where it talks about 6A, the law.
Mm-hmm.
Could we go back to that?
Sure. The Strengthening Gifted Education Act, that one. It might take me time to go through 40 slides.
Yeah, sorry about that.
There's got to be an easier way.
I'm just going to ask that everyone on the board please make sure your cell phones are away.
There you go.
Okay, so the 6A 8-3.1A5, it says that more content areas when compared to his chronological peers in the school district. So it doesn't mention anything about individual schools. So is there any other part of the 6A law that states that you can go by the school norms? So that's the
Yeah.
question.
And again, Mr. Comegno can certainly correct me, but there is a great deal of leeway in how you structure your gifted and talented program, as well as the multiple measures that you use and the percentiles that you use. So what this is basically saying is that they want us comparing students to students that are within the district. The students sitting in the classes with them are within the district. They're not saying you have to use school norms on this slide. They're not talking about norms. They're just saying that when we're comparing students, they don't want it to be comparing to students in the district next door, in the state that's, across the country. They want us making sure that we are using the environment and the school district. So students in the school are certainly part of our school district. And because our services are presented within a school building, it's really important that the students sitting in that classroom receiving services are similar to the other students. And they're not necessarily similar if I'm comparing Johnny from one school to Billy from the other school. So we are a diverse community, and so best practice, we are using students within the school district. We happen to drill it down even further, and we're identifying schools. So as far as I am aware, there's nothing that prevents school districts from choosing whether or not they want to use district or school-based norms. Much of that, I think, depends on sort of the demographic makeup of the school district.
Okay, thank you. And
You're
then
welcome.
just the one statement, and this is just a generic statement, I don't understand, and it doesn't have to have an answer. I don't understand how we have to evaluate gifted and talented students every year, but we're not required to, or we're not required to do it every year, but we're making it part of our program. But special ed students and children with IEPs, it's every 3 years. So that's just, it's a
Yeah.
statement, you can answer, it's up.
Well, with the gifted and talented, remember, we're not labeling a student, right? So we're not saying this child is gifted. We're saying this child is in need of these programs. Special education students have annual reviews. Every year, parents, child study team, that team, including the parents, sit and talk about what are the appropriate programs and what are the appropriate services for that student for the next school year. So if you think about it less as about a label, a classification, and more about programs, it's actually in line with what we do with special education. Each year, we're identifying what are the programs and services that a special education student needs, what are the programs and services that other students might need in the area if gifted. So again, it's that mirrored kind of triangle lying on its side, the continuum of services.
Doesn't need an answer, I just want to clarify. I'm talking about a full assessment is the part of it. Like every year you're giving a full full assessment, whereas in special education, that's what I'm saying, it doesn't really need an answer to it.
Yeah.
But like it's a
Sure.
full assessment every year, and then for a child that has an IEP, it's full assessment is every 3 years,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Right.
I just want to remind everyone this isn't a dialogue, and we need to focus on specifically the gifted and talented definition. That was the focus of this question. I am going to defer to Mr. Comegno just to clarify something.
Yeah, wonderful questions. These issues of addressing student needs, my great perseveration when we look at these different vehicles, and I love the fact that we heard that this presentation was talking about where we began, addressing need intuitively in the moment as quickly as we can without label. And whether we talk about IEP or 504 or MTSS or GNT, right, they're labels. There are different ways we regulate service, but this is all about resourcing faculty and staff to address in the moment those learning needs, which I know you're sensitive to as well. The gifted and talented law, and if you note, this conversation began back in 1819. That's referencing regulation that was current then. Regulations have changed, and in fact, current now because there are additional updates, which I think Dr. Lacatina referenced as well. Effective April 2024, that citation now no longer notes compared to the chronological peers in the school district. It actually notes district boards of education shall be responsible for identifying gifted and talented students and shall provide them with appropriate instructional adaptations and services. Again, addressing need in the moment through and how districts may choose to regulate that process. So I wanted to make that comment. Secondly, which was another great question, comparing how we look at broad assessment tools that arm faculty and staff and administration every year, assessments that are given to every student broadly, and then used in this process to identify students who may need additional challenge. And then we're going to resource that. That's everyone. IDEA has specific, federal regulations which specify how IDEA Part B monies given to us from UNCLE are spent by the district, including, in part, evaluations, which are triennial. And we got a number of special ed experts here who would tell you that we can't evaluate every year because of practice effect and other reasons which would actually impact the integrity of testing. So the Fed set that number at every 3, not every year, and that's only for students who are identified, as you know, as potentially disabled, not all. This is talking about all. So I think those are important distinctions.
Dr. Lacatina, Mrs. D, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This portion of our board meeting is specifically for comments on resolutions listed in tonight's agenda. This is the public comment section. When speaking, please state your name and municipality of residence. Please do not give us your full address. We do not need it. Specify which resolution you are addressing. Limit your remarks to 3 minutes. State law prohibits board members and the administration from discussing personnel matters, student discipline, or other confidential issues. Please note this is not a dialogue or a Q&A session between speakers and the board. While we may not respond immediately or to every comment made tonight, all input is carefully considered and helps inform our decisions. Responses may come through emails, reports, board statements, website updates, or after the comment period closes. Thank you for your participation in our school community's governance. The floor is open.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Simon Fiedler. I am from Fairlawn. Dr. Lacatina, thank you for your presentation. It's wonderful. But a few questions still came up. So my question is about Regulation 2464, which is gifted and talented. It's an agenda. We talked about it a few times, but still. Part D of it, exit procedure. So current reduction says each student identified as a gifted and talented will be assessed annually for continuing to be in a program. And assessment will include interviews with the students, student parents, legal guardian, teaching staff, members, educationally responsible for the student. Review student profile, including relevant test results, and review students' work in a preceding year, school year. And the part B says the program will be revised as required to meet students' needs and interests. The proposal one says each student identified as gifted and talented will be re-identified annually using the most current assessment data and so on. So my question about it is, based on those 2 points or those 2 parts of section D, does it mean that students attending last year of the program should be fully retested or reassessed based on what current regulation is saying? Because if we retest, it means we don't say it's gifted anymore, and the child can be removed from the program. Another question is, if a student attended the GNT program last year, like definitely should be removed because of it. So there are 2 questions in the same about the same points. I want to understand what exactly are we following on the current regulation and what's going to happen if new regulation will come into the board. This is probably my main 2 questions. Another question I had, but Mr. John, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name, replied or answered this question. It's about current law, which has New Jersey State, and you said it's been updated recently. I didn't see that yet. I'm going to review, of course, but current law in Chapter 18A, Section 35 says it should be chronological district comparison, which Ms. Yurman pointed out. So, because if we are changing the regulation as proposed, it will be against, in my understanding. So if we change the proposal, if we voting for a proposal, if you're voting for a proposal to use local norms, but New Jersey state law says it's a district, it doesn't match. There is no match. Thank you. And I probably should sign up. Sorry.
There we go. My name is Elizabeth Esterson, and I live in Fair Lawn, and thank you again for the presentation. I also have a few questions and comments about it, specifically in terms of the part of the intention in rebranding and relabeling the REACH program as the Gifted and Talented Program from the audit, as was explained in the September meetings, was that better representing what the program was and aligning it with the Gift Education Act in the state of New Jersey. And to that extent, I understood it as more of a recognition of giftedness as a neurodivergent classification in the same way of other neurodivergent classifications. And so in that regard, I do have some concerns or unclarities of the reassessments. The reassessments seem to indicate it's more of an achievement-based identification process. So that's why one student could be identified one year and not identified next year, similar to trying out for a sporting team and you only get the top whatever number of kids, and it doesn't matter if someone is excellent, if there are 12 children who are more excellent, it's about how you are ranking compared to your immediate peer group, as opposed to a neurodivergent classification that is really a brain difference as neurodivergences are evaluated. And that classification is not something that is really different or dependent on your local peer grouping. And so I was also interested in that the reassessment annually is really only reassessing certain components of it, from what I understood. It's the NJSLA that is retaken, it is the CLICIT that's retaken, or is that the right term? Not the COGAT. The COGAT is not retaken. Link it, thank you. Link it that is retaken. Whereas the COGAT, and I think the torrents also, are a one and done. So I'm concerned, or not concerned, I'm curious about how the decisions are made of what is reevaluated versus what is a standard evaluation and considered a one-time only. If the considerations about how children's brains change aren't all of the things worthy of reinvestigation, or if the view of giftedness is more of the psychological view of it being a neurodivergence, why is everything having to be reanalyzed in that regard? Thank you.
Let me just make sure that there's nothing on the Google Doc. No one else wants to speak. Danielle has it open if it's easier. Go ahead.
There is one comment on the Google Doc, and that is from, from Mel. I apologize for not being able to attend in person tonight, but I just wanted to wish Mrs. Joan Cosgrove much health and happiness in her retirement. Congratulations on your retirement, and thank you for all you've done for Fair Lawn Schools. If she spoils her grandkids half as much as she has spoiled Flace these past 28 years, those babies are in great hands. I would also like to welcome Ms. Claire Keller to our district. While she has big shoes to fill, I can already see how she will excel in our district. Bloomfield's loss is our gain for sure. Lastly, Ms. Erica Mulkey, it is such a pleasure to have you serve as our Flace rep for Edison School, and we wish to congratulate you on this new opportunity. With your passion for children, education, and impeccable organization skills, we have no doubt that you will be amazing as the new before-after care supervisor, which I definitely echo those sentiments. So,
Mr. Spluther, come on back up.
Thank you. About labeling, this is definitely not about labeling. This is about kids. And kids, if kids identified as a gifted, how come they cannot they become ungifted next year? This is unfair to them. Just imagine a kid goes to a school as a gifted child for a few years, and at some point next year, someone says, you know what, you're not gifted anymore. Go to a regular class, get bored over there, don't do anything, and lose your motivation. Next year, we'll assess you again, and if you wish, or if you will be able to pass the tests, you'll come back. As Dr. Lukatina mentioned about Dr. Thomas' audit, she was saying a child can fail a test. It's not a problem for being gifted. So I'm asking the board to take this into consideration and think about it again if possible. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. The floor is closed.
No, I don't think we have any responses. I think all the questions have been answered in the presentation tonight.
I am now going to open the floor to board member comments on agenda items. Ms. Vevelovich, Dr. Bertolini. Yearman.
Okay, so I might be misunderstanding again, but let me just make sure I understand. The data profile sheet, according to Mr. Camagno, states that it is a student record. Based on the law, again, on the FERPA law, we don't have to provide it as a school district for free, but we can say we'll charge you $5, $3, $5, whatever the service fee is, to actually get a copy for the profile data sheet. If I'm misunderstanding it, again, can you please explain how a parent, if they want a physical copy, they can actually pay to get a copy of it, or can they take a picture of it? Can they do anything to actually have it in their hands? The next thing is, I looked at Ms. Meredith's district that she oversees. I wanted to see the policy because of the regulation. I sent it to the administration ahead of time, so this is nothing new. So that the school and the board leadership also received my email. I never got a response, but I'll call it a day for that one. It says the regulation 2464 says students will be considered for participation in the gifted and talented program when compared to their peers within the district. That's with Miss Meredith Thomas, school district she oversees, the gifted program that she oversees. That's the regulation. Also, the regulation says something that I don't understand. I asked this question again on email, didn't get a response, so I'm going to ask it here again. It says this. It says the selection criteria from Strauss-Esme. And the selection criteria says, has an IQ. Okay, we're not using IQ, has a standardized test. Where does it say for grade 3, the students have to have a 95th percentile or 96th percentile or whatever the percentile is in how many areas, like 4 areas, 3 areas, 6 areas, I have no idea whatever the areas are. Where does it say that? And to get to tier 2, the child has to have 4 or 5 or whatever it is, parts of 93rd percentile in these areas. I don't see that. Based on Strauss-Esme, it states that we do have to have it in our regulation. Currently, our regulation just says we'll just use different multi-level, which is great. But how is a parent supposed to know that their child didn't get in and it's supposed to be 4 or 5? Where does it say? I looked at the handbook for gifted and talented. It doesn't say to get into tier 2, you need to have so many measures on our profile sheet. To get into tier 3, there's so many levels of 96, 97 percentile, whatever the percentile is. And Mrs. Meredith's
Ms. Thomas. Her name is Ms. Thomas.
Ms. Okay, thank you for interrupting me. I appreciate it. It actually says the criteria. Why are we not including it in the criteria? Okay, I'll come back since my time is up, I assume.
Dr. Bertolini.
I can definitely read this. No, I'm thinking what I want to say. First of all, I want to congratulate and I want to thank Mrs. Keller for joining our district and her willingness to join Fair Lawn Schools. We're very fortunate from what I've seen. Replacing Dr. Lacatino will not be an easy task, as we all know, but I'm confident based on your resume and our meet and greet earlier tonight that you could reach the high standards set by Natalie. However, I would be remiss if I did not add this additional point. I am puzzled why everyone here did not support the selection of such a highly qualified applicant. And I want to wish you the best of luck as you join a new chapter in your life. So congratulations. Thank you.
Ms. Yerman.
Okay, so I want to congratulate Joan Cosgrove. This is for 5A. It's a long time ago, and it's right around when her youngest, started grade school and with my daughter. So I want to congratulate her, have her enjoy her retirement with her grandbabies. It is an amazing club to be in, and I wish her all the luck in the world. Congratulations to Ms. Keller on joining Fair Lawn Schools. I went to Fair Lawn Schools, my kids went through Fair Lawn Schools, and it's an amazing place to be. Another part is I still have concerns with the 11A policy of the regulation 2464. I happen to Google a few of the schools. I just Googled regulation 2464, and I basically got one where it was 7 pages long, and it asked for specific criteria. God bless you. And I Googled another district that didn't even update it. I Googled another district that was kind of middle of the road, kind of like ours. And I Googled one that was in, I'm trying to think if it's in Passaic or Bergen County, I'm not really sure. But it's where it was very minimalistic. So I think that I go back to the last meeting that we were part of, where we voted to not pass the first reading. And if I don't have that right, stand corrected. But I think we have to go to the committee of the whole of the education committee, and really relook at it and put some of our standards from the presentation into the regulation, because it you know, such as percentages and tests that are going to be done, and get more detail into it. I have not seen the blank Strauss-Esme policy, so I wasn't able to log into Strauss-Esme to see what their policy was. So I'm looking at a revised for Fair Lawn, a revised 2006, I think it is, policy, rather than a Strauss-Esme as it would stand today if it was made available. But I'm not, as I said, I wasn't able to log in to their site. So I'd like to start from what they have as, 2024 or 2023 even, of whatever their most recent one is, and work within that one and produce a regulation. I have absolutely no problem with the presentation and what was said in the presentation and how things are done, except for my little concern of what the law says, but that's been explained, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Baldowski.
Thank you. I first want to echo the sentiments of my fellow board members with 7I. Ms. Keller, welcome to the district. We look forward to working with you. I want to thank the administration for 10I, which is the donation of discarded cafeteria tables. I think these types of partnerships are great for the district in terms of sustainability, but also in terms of ensuring that items that we may no longer have use for, that still have life in them, can be used elsewhere by students. Regardless of whether it's this district or districts outside, we are all here for the support of the students across the state. And then the last comment I simply want to make on 11A, the policy 2464. I want to highlight the importance of, or warn against, looking at other districts and how they have the same policies. Policies that work for other districts may not work the same way it does for Fair Lawn, and that's why we need to adapt it for ourselves. I want to highlight that Dr. Thomas's district has one elementary school. So the language that they use in their policy when they say all district contains the entire school. And so just to caution fellow board members when we look at other districts, that there are many factors that go into a district, whether it's the economic social groups, whether it's the number of schools. We are a large, diverse district. So thank you.
Ms. Brown.
Joe stole my thunder for a lot of things. I echo the same sentiment about regulation 2464, which we're voting on tonight, not policy. You're welcome. I'm also excited. I was also very excited to see the donation that we are providing in 10I. I feel the same way. We're in it for all students. I know we're here for Fair Lawn students, but sharing is caring. So, and what's good for our students is good for all. So I'm excited to see that we are reaching out and donating to other districts. I also wanted to congratulate Joan Cosgrove on her retirement, and I wish her all the best. And I wholeheartedly am so excited to have Mrs. Keller here. And it is true that she has gigantic shoes to fill. But after listening to you speak tonight, and after being privy to your tremendous resume and all of that information, I'm very excited to see what you're going to do in the district. So I wholeheartedly want to welcome you, and we're very excited to have you.
Mr. Rosenberg. Sorry, I did not see you, Mr. Banta. Mr. Banta.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we certainly peach-jarred 2464. I mean, I don't think there's anything left to say. Today is a microcosm of the issues we've been having for the past couple of years trying to pass policies and regulations, and there's no reason not to pass it. We've gotten attorney okay, the superintendent and the central office seem to think it's going to work, and I don't see any reason to vote no. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Thank you. Mrs. Keller, I hope we didn't chase you out of here. Congratulations again. You do have, you know, it's going to be really interesting when Natalie leaves, because she's just been such a fabric of this district, but I'm sure that you're going to do a great job, and otherwise you wouldn't be here tonight. So as far as the regulation, I agree also on the donation to the Patterson schools. They could always use stuff that even we consider older and dated. If they have a use for it, it's a good thing. As far as the policy, what is it, 2464? Regulation 2464. Again, I'm not going to repeat for that long. Considering how long we've been working on this, since 2018, and I remember, and even before that, because the difficulty in creating this policy was way before, or this regulation was way before 2018. So considering that we've been going back and forth for that long, I think we need to go through with it and watch it work. If it needs to be tweaked in the future, we tweak it in the future, especially as the law evolves. But it was an incredible presentation, and it answered all my questions. So that's it. And have a happy Thanksgiving.
Mr. Spindell.
Ms. Keller, I want to reiterate what all have said about you. Unfortunately, my term expires next month, so I will not have the privilege and opportunity to work with you. But from your vast experiences that were noted, I think you're going to do an excellent, excellent job. Of course, I'm going to miss Natalie, who I've worked with for the past 12 years, actually. It's been a long time. So once again, congratulations to you.
I don't typically make commentary, but I just wanted to bring one other thing up. Not only do, we all sat around and we talked about how grateful we are to you, Natalie, and to you, Kelly, and to all the people who are part of this process. But for me, I think what is the most important is really thanking our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our staff who are in the classroom, who are on the playground, who are watching our kids during lunch, because that's where real differentiated instruction come into play. And that is the crux of all education, differentiating, scaffolding up, scaffolding to meet every need, both high achievers, students with individual differences, neurodivergencies, students who are identified as part of our gifted education. You guys are the reason that our students are successful. You are the reason that we are sitting here talking about how we can continue to expand, continue to enrich, and continue to differentiate. So with all due respect to both of you who created an incredible presentation. I'm going to use Ms. Hoffman as an example and say thank you to you, because as a teacher who sits here month after month, and to all of your colleagues at every school in our building, thank you for doing what you do, because the heavy lifting, don't get me wrong, is a lot of policy and a lot of time and meetings, but you guys are doing all of that implementing. You guys are the reason our kids are getting what they need. So thank you so much to you. And Ms. Keller, I already thanked you for being here. I congratulated you. But something that, as a social worker, really hits me is everyone keeps saying that you have huge shoes to fill. Natalie, you're incredible. You know I believe that. I'm not asking you to fill Dr. Lacatana's shoes. I'm asking you to join us in continuing to ensure that Fair Lawn School District is an incredible place to learn, to grow, and to be a part of. So welcome. So we actually are maxing out. There are 2 minutes left, so you've got 2 minutes.
Well, he went twice.
Who went twice?
Mr. Rosenberg.
Nope.
So I'm gonna, since I'm not allowed to speak, I'm gonna make a motion that we put the selection criteria, the actual criteria to get into the gifted and talented, into the regulation as the state law, the new state law. So my motion is to put the actual criteria, the 95th percent, the 94th percentile, whatever it is, to get into tier 1, to get into tier 2, to tier 3, in the regulation 2464. Thank you.
I'd like to propose a subsidiary motion to move this motion to a committee to follow the proper protocols and procedures to move a motion forward.
Is there a second on the subsidiary motion? Second.
But this is the policy that we're actually right now discussing. It's the first read. That's what the first read does. You change it.
Excuse me, Ms. Belovich, I'm going to defer to Mr. Comegno on the process.
We've got a subsidiary motion that's been moved and seconded. So discussion now is on the subsidiary motion to move the first motion to a committee. Discussion.
Floor is open, Ms. Belovich.
The law states, Ms. Meredith District says that the selection criteria.
Ms. Thomas, your name?
Miss, I've been dealing
Thank
with
you
the
so
flu.
much.
So
And
I'm
I appreciate that everyone is referring to her as Dr. Thomas. I actually I don't think I recalled that she is a doctor. And I do want to point out that it's really important that we refer to all of the people who have earned those degrees as doctors. So I'm just going to ask that everyone moving forward ensure that every single person refers to the person as their rightful doctorate, Mr. and Mrs. moving forward.
Discussion now is on this motion and whether or not the motion to move the regulation to, no.
That means they won't be voted on today if you move them of regulation.
Yeah, but the discussion right now is on Ms. Brown's motion, which is to move any discussion of regulation changes.
I am.
That's the conversation.
Yes. I am discussing why I think we should not be moving it, and that's why I'm not talking.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the law says that we have to have a criteria in the regulation. That's what Strauss-Esme, for the past 4 years, anytime I wanted to change one word in the Strauss-Esme language, I was always told, Strauss-West knows better, we're not allowed to change one word and what they recommend. That's what I told. I have the Strauss-Esme paper because it was on Dr. Meredith, what's her last name? Thomas website. And it says the selection criteria. According to Strauss-Esme, it says students will be considered for the participation in the gifted and talented program compared to the peers within the district. And it says 1, IQ score, 2, standardized test, 3, obviously we're using different things, but it actually puts a line to tell us what the number is. I shared it with the administration before everybody jumps on me and says, oh, you never said anything. I did. I shared it. I tried my best.
Point of information, I'd like to make it very clear that that was sent at 6 o'clock this morning. And to ask anyone to respond to an email given less than 24 hours just seems unreasonable. I don't know about you guys, but I have a full-time job. I have 2 children. I drove to Oakland twice today after work and went to a doctor's appointment. So asking anyone to respond to an email would be unfair. Please understand, and for anyone in the audience who's listening, anyone who has never gotten an email from me within a 24 to 36 hour is very unlikely. I was responding to emails as the board president, because I am the voice of the board, from a cruise ship on my vacation to ensure that I was responding in an appropriate amount of time. So to ask myself or the superintendent to respond to an email in under 12 hours on the day of a board meeting just seems unreasonable. So I'd really like to clarify that you are making a statement that does not show the grand scheme of things. We need to see the forest through the trees here.
I'm glad you said that, because the superintendent sends us at 2 o'clock the revised version of the policy that was that failed last board meeting. So if I'm not supposed to be looking at emails for 24 hours, then we told as a board, we discussed that a policy or any motion that fails cannot be brought up again until the next year, or the board has changed. The board hasn't changed. We're all the same people. So the policy changed as of 2 o'clock today, or 12 o'clock today, somewhere there. We don't have time to look at it to change, see what it, and I wrote in my questions on I think this weekend, by the deadline, which says that the policy hasn't changed. So we should not be putting this policy back on until we meet with the committee, we discuss it, we change it. We met with the committee, we got a beautiful presentation, but the policy was never discussed. That's one problem. The second problem is we never had an whole education committee meeting. We never have so I don't understand why we're not following Robert's rules. If a motion fails, only the person on the prevailing side can bring up the motion again. So I don't understand why we're even having this gifted and talented. I wrote all of these things in the questions more than 24 hours in advance. Thank you.
I'd also like to make another point of information. Past practice, past procedure, although there is no policy or regulation, and maybe that's a conversation we need to have, is that all information is said to go through leadership. That would be myself as the board president and Mr. Baldowski as the board vice president. Today is the first time we have ever received an email from you. So you are now asking us to put ourselves out when both Mr. Baldowski and I have jobs and work all day. And I did respond to your email after my workday was over. So with that said, I am going to ask Dr.
Point of information.
I'm going to ask Dr.
Questions were sent
Dionisio.
to the whole board with my request, with my comments.
No, they were.
With the board comments, yes, they were. Dr. Dionisio answered them. Everybody got them.
I am going to ask Dr. Dionisio to respond.
Gladly.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Vavilovich, we actually, to your point, we actually did have Education Committee last week when we were having discussions in that committee for, I would say, it's about an hour, 50 to 55 minutes that day. It was, I would say 50 of the 55 minutes was actually all related to gifted and talented. And as you see, that's all actually related to, in fact, the regulation that was presented last month as a first read. Furthermore, the revisions that were provided that the board received, that's on for a first reading today, the administration reserves the right to be able to put on new regulations. This is a new regulation because there have been substantive changes that have been made specific to the feedback that was provided. And in fact, you'll probably recognize that the revisions that are in there are all framed based on the feedback you provided in committee. So none of it is a surprise to you.
Dr. Bertolini.
I am.
Just 2 points. One, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna quote Mr. Rosenberg, who doesn't, who doesn't like motions at the last minute before. It's been just, I think it's Mike usually said, both of it. Mike always says it, though. And then the second point is, I know Strauss Esme well, very well, from my years in education, and I've been on many meetings here as a board member, and there is no rule that says you cannot change Strauss Esme. We do state that Strauss Esmes are the experts, and we do respect their opinion, but I've never said on a committee meeting, and I've been in a lot of committee meetings dealing with Strauss Esme, you can change Strauss Esme, but they're the experts, we respect their viewpoint. But you can change it. We've never said as a member of the Fairlawn Board of Education, or my years of experience, I've never said, nor has anybody I've heard said, we cannot change anything Strauss Esme has recommended. Thank you.
Call the question.
Can I get a clarification on said question and then a roll call, please?
There is a subsidiary motion to move any discussion of Regulation 2464 changes to the Education Committee.
Okay, that's the motion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Baldowski?
Please come back to me.
Mr. Banta?
No.
Dr. Bertolini?
Wait.
I'm sorry, let's get a clarification.
Can I get a clarification? If I vote yes, that means it goes back to committee.
If you vote no, it does not go back to committee. Mr. Banta?
Can I ask a further clarifying question?
Yes.
If we send concerns to committee, can we still vote on the first reading?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Banta?
No.
Dr. Bertolini?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Favolovich?
So no, I'm confused, a point of information. If I say no, then we can vote on if it prevails, then we can vote on my motion. If it, yes, then,
Yes.
Okay, so no.
Mr. Rosenberg?
No,
Mr. Spindell?
I think.
Ms. Yurman?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahan?
Yes.
Subsidiary, I'm sorry.
No. Thank you.
Subsidiary motion.
Wait, hold on 1 second before I just want to make sure. If I vote yes, that means we can vote on my motion. If I vote no,
It goes back to your motion that you put on the table.
now I'm confused.
Correct, no, if she votes yes, yes.
I'm confused. Can you please, a point of information, I'm a little confused.
So
on
if
what
you
I'm
vote
voting.
no, which you did, you voted in favor of going back to your motion. However, this subsidiary motion carried, which means we are going to ask that any concerns after we vote on the first reading can still go back to the Education Committee. Please understand that just because a policy or a regulation have a first reading and move to a second reading, or a second reading and move on to voting and moving into practice, doesn't mean we can't have discussions about policy and regulation. These are things that are our job as the Board of Education. It is one of the primary functions of our roles as trustees. So we can always continue to have conversations. However, as the board president, I will be referring this back to Education Small for further discussion. However, tonight, we still will be voting on 11A as a first reading, as is noted as a new regulation with the new inclusions regarding what was discussed at the Education Small. Thank you.
A point of information. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure a regulation only needs one reading, and we voted it'll be going into effect tonight. It could be adjusted after that, but tonight's vote would be the first reading, and it would be approved.
Thank you so much for letting me know. I actually didn't realize it.
Point of information, the attorney never answered my question regarding profile data sheets. If it's a student record, can a parent pay to get a copy of the record?
The answer
Okay.
to that is no.
And just want to clarify that the subsidiary motion did carry.
Yes.
Okay, so now we are moving on to the next agenda item.
Okay. So,
Julie,
yes.
if I can make a motion, given the hour, can we just do a consent agenda for everything instead of doing 1A, 1B, 1? That's my motion.
I'll second, third, and fourth that.
All in favor?
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Aye. Yeah.
So motion by Ed, I'm sorry, by Jean, right? Second by
Yep.
Ed,
What time is it?
Dr. Bertolini, to approve a consent agenda, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call.
Yes, please.
Mr. Baldowski,
Yes.
Mr. Banta.
Yes.
Dr. Bertolini.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Favolovich.
No.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Spindell.
Yes.
Ms. Yorman.
No.
Mrs. Mahan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I don't know how to call that.
We have a motion to approve agenda items. Help me, Danielle.
Okay, I actually know this. I can say this. I wrote it down. Got it. 3A, 5A through D, 6A through D, 7A through E and G and H, 8A through C, 9A through E, 10A through K, and 11A and B.
So moved.
Second.
Mark and Mike.
Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Baldowski.
Abstain on 7C3, yes on everything else.
Mr. Banta.
Yes.
Dr. Bertolini.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
No on 7E4, yes on everything else.
Ms. Favolovich.
No, no on 5C, I'm sorry, no on 10K, no on 5C, no on 11A and B, and abstain on, I'm sorry, we were looking together. 7C3.
I'm just going to read that back to you. 5C, 10K, 11A, B, and 7C3. Thank you.
Abstain on 7C3.
I'm sorry. Abstain. Thank you. Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Spindell.
Yes.
Ms. Yerman.
No on 5C, I'm sorry, abstain on 5C, and no on 11A, and yes on everything else.
Mrs. Mahan.
Abstain on 7E4, yes to everything else.
All of the agenda items pass.
This is a portion of our board meeting is specific for comments on any matter. When speaking, please state your name and municipality of residence, specify which resolution you are addressing. That doesn't actually make sense, so ignore that. Limit your remarks to 3 minutes. State law prohibits board members and administrators from discussing personnel matters, student discipline, or other confidential issues. Please note this is not a dialogue or a Q&A session between speakers and the board. While we may not respond immediately to every comment made tonight, all input is carefully considered and helps inform our decisions. Responses may come through emails, reports, board statements, website updates, or after the comment period closes. Thank you for your participation in our school community's governance. The floor is open. Mr. Weaver, are you just leaving or are you coming to make a comment?
Good evening, Mike Weaver, principal, Thomas Jefferson Middle School. I didn't, as Natalie knows, sometimes I don't always get everything in like on time. Like it usually comes like last minute. And I might get a call nudging me to say, hey, you didn't send that thing. But I didn't want to wait until the last minute for this to the December meeting and then not have the opportunity to come. I wanted to make sure I was here tonight in person on behalf of myself, the administrative team, to thank Mr. Banta and thank Mr. Spindell for your years of service. Whether I was principal at Forest School or welcoming in kindergarten parents, or now in my role at Thomas Jefferson Middle School, welcoming in 5th grade parents, part of that orientation, I always communicate that Fair Lawn offers the children of this town one of the best educations in the world. I mean, we certainly know the rankings, and that certainly tells a story. But there's a qualitative piece that you really can't put into words unless you see it every day like I do. And I can tell you that you both have made a huge difference in the lives of thousands of children and their families. I thank you for entrusting me to do the job that I've done over the years. I can't thank you enough for your support. I know every time I would come to a meeting to present one of our teachers for Teacher of the Year or introduce new teachers, I always appreciated, Mark, that you'd come up to me after and thank me for those words that I had shared with the board, because you genuinely cared and were listening. Not that everybody else wasn't. I remember when we had just finished the construction at TJ, and it was during COVID, and Gene had come over to do a walkthrough, and I was so excited to show him different rooms, like the steam room and the multipurpose room and the guidance suite. And I brought Gene into the guidance suite, and I don't know if he remembers this or not, but I said, and this is the guidance child study team suite. And he looked at me and he goes, you can't call it a suite. The public just won't go for that. So it's not like there's a concierge lounge in there that the district's paying for, but every time I walk by there now in 5th grade orientation, I catch myself, and I always think of Gene now when I walk into those offices, because I can't call it a suite. The hours, the time, the care, the dedication, we as a district can't thank you enough. And so thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and speak.
Google Doc.
There is one comment from Mel Jerchauer. Please mark your calendars for the Flace Dinner Dance. It's called a shameless plug right here. On February 28th, 2025, we are currently looking for sponsors and attendees. Get your tickets ASAP, and I know we'll all be there. So thank you very much, Mel.
Did Mel say anything about raffle tickets?
No, don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
The floor is closed. I will now open the floor up to comments on any item for the board. Mr. Spindell.
If the middle school or the high school, if they're looking for another club to open up, there's a new thing that's catching on like wildfire. It's called the Clean Initiative. You can check the information at cleaninitiative.org. It's a club basically that has the kids helping the seniors with their technology. And in this day and age, everything obviously is technology, and a lot of the elderly people, I'm not going to mention any board members here, could possibly use that help. So once again, it's cleaninitiative.org. Thank you. And I also want to wish everyone a happy, healthy Thanksgiving.
Lisa.
So in January, I'll be losing the person to my right and the person to my left. But I did mention to Dr. Lakatina that I remember her first day at Radburn School. One of my children was a 5th grader there. And now I will be able to be honored to congratulate her on her retirement. I'm going to do it today as opposed to in December when we'll talk about the board members. But I wish you a wonderful retirement and the many years that you've been here. It's a long time, and you'll be terribly missed. But again, life moves on, and I wish Ms. Keller her new opportunity and to work with the residents of Fair Lawn and the administration and superintendent and board. So thank you very much. And happy Thanksgiving.
Ms. Velovich.
I also want to wish Dr. Thank you for all that you have done. You've always answered my question, and I've always been respectful, and I just want to say thank you so much for everything you have done so far. My other three concerns are the following. I've been asking since May 30th for an education committee meeting to be included. I've wrote it on text message, no. I've brought it up to board meetings, no. I wrote an email to the chair of the education committee, no. Then I spoke to the education committee and said, can you please read your email? I don't read emails. Wonderful. What do you want me to do? Like, I think I'm just gonna bring a billboard and ask for it on a billboard. I don't really know what else I can do. I've been asked, our policy says it should be included in the next 2 meetings. I've been asking for 5 months already.
Can you
and
please
it's still not
clarify what you're asking for?
My topic to be discussed that I've been asking for the past, since May.
You've been asking for
a topic to be discussed in the education committee. I've emailed Dr. Bertolini. I've spoken to him when we had the education committee. I said, I sent you an email. Can you please read it? He says, I don't read emails. So I would like to know, can it please be put on for the next education committee? Even
So I just want to clarify, you said that
I wrote it on in May 30th to him.
No, I just want to clarify because you said that we have to have 2 education meetings a year, but we have monthly education small meetings.
A topic that is proposed must be put on the committee agenda within 2 meetings of having. So if I present on May, then within 2 meetings, the topic must be put on. That's what our policy
I
is.
just want to clarify, our policy and procedure does state that. You're absolutely right. However, procedurally, if you're not getting an answer from a committee chair, that's what board leadership is for. And myself and Mr. Baldowski have not received emails for you. As I stated before, the first email we've gotten from you all year since we've been in leadership was today. So please forward it to me so that I can ensure that it is put on an agenda, because that's actually what our role is to ensure that if something is missed as leadership and as the voice for the board, we can move things forward without knowing and without being privy. There's no opportunity for that.
May I finish my sentence?
Go right ahead.
I brought it up in September's board meeting. The administration says it will be put on the agenda. I'm still waiting. So I'm just bringing this up so that everybody, I've been bringing it up. I don't know what to do anymore. But okay.
Point of information. I just told you what to do. I just told you to email me, please. That's all we're asking for.
Can you
I
please
say
stop interrupting me? Let me finish my time, and then you can answer my question.
I'm not going to answer your question, Rita. I am telling you that this is our procedure. All you talk about. You're right, Mrs. Vevelovich. However, Dr. Dionisio is a doctor. So moving forward, nobody's responding to you unless you speak to all of us the way you expect to be treated.
I'm still speaking. This is still my time. Can you please stop interrupting me? When I finish my comments, then you can make your comments. That's respectful.
Your time now, okay? And then we can finish all of your questions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So I would like to make sure that my topic that I wrote since May 30th, we put on the December Education Committee. Number 1. Number 2, I was wondering, we brought this up maybe 2 years ago, and the board didn't seem to not like this idea, so I was asking again if we can actually consider it. The snapshot of our meeting, like in Mr. Narcia's new district, they have every board meeting, the vote, what was discussed on one page, everything. It's like a summary that explains what was taken, what was the vote, what was this discussion, anything on one page. So it's like a snapshot for everyone to be able to read, because board docs is kind of difficult to use unless you're really good at it. So I was wondering if that could be please considered for the following year. I know that we're going to be discussing the school calendar sooner or later. I hope the administration I understand professional development is important. I'm an educator myself, but the half-day professional development, the 3 of them, I was hoping the administration can eliminate them. Here's why I asking very politely to remove them. First of all, parents, my mother was a single mom. She worked a lot of hours. Half a day means she doesn't get paid because she can't pick me up. So therefore she would have to not have a paycheck that day. And that's a problem for single parents. Second of all, if my mom would be lucky enough to get the after school care, the student will be staying from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That's 6 hours in a room without any really instructional time. And I just don't think that's in the best interest of the children. So as much as I understand professional development is incredibly important, I also understand that the mental health of our students is more important than anything else we ever do. And having 5 to 6 hours of sitting in a room being watched is not really helpful for the kids. So I'm hoping that the district calendar will not have the 3 half days. In this 3 half days, you will also have 4 half days for conferences, which I think is very fundamental.
Madam President, I call for the orders of the day.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Can I please finish? Can you stop everybody interrupting me? And the last thing is the dinners. I really would like the board to eat the dinners that the students eat every day, not what we eat. I just think it's important for us to understand what the students are eating. I think it will be a better understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mahan. I think I need to respond to the comments made about me, since I'm the chair of the Education Committee. And over the past 2 years as a board member, I've received phone calls from Mrs. Vailovich. I've received text messages. I don't always answer my emails because, as everyone knows on this board, I struggle with the email that we have in the system. So I don't always answer emails. And I'm trying to be serious here, Mr. Spindell. That is a good line, though. I appreciate that. Yeah, okay. We're looking for a volunteer advisor, I think. But so certainly, the interesting part, and I know there are numerous people on the committee, we have spent most of our education committee time frame on topics that have been offered by Mr. Fayovich. I don't know what the topic is that I'm missing, but we certainly went over math curriculum for an entire meeting with everything displayed over there by you. Then we did, the next thing we did was the gifted and talented, that Dr. Lakatina, and that was the entire education committee. I had a topic agenda item that I was able to speak for about 30 seconds, if everyone recalls, about conservatories and academies at the high school level. So if I missed one, certainly I can put it back on the agenda. But we spent a lot of time on your topics. Thank you.
The floor is closed.
Wait, I got to say one more thing.
No, sorry,
I want to
sorry.
wish Dr. Lakatina good luck.
Tell her next month. It is 10:13. The floor is closed. Upcoming meeting dates are on December 19th. It's our regular monthly meeting, and at 7:30 p.m. here at Thomas Edison School. Please join us, because during this time we will be saying thank you and congratulations to so many amazing people who have done such incredible things for our district and our community. And then on January 2nd, 2025, will be our organization meeting at 7:30 p.m. at Thomas Edison School. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. It's 10:14. Happy Thanksgiving, all in favor?